appreciate it if you would stop Rob Taylor from blathering on and on.
Opinions expressed by the talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-lined broadcast bunker on the beautiful south coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
Hey, Coos County. Hello, Oregon. Hello, America and beyond. Yes, I'm in my lead-lined bunker here in Bandon, deep in the earth here. I'm in the Oregon, the People's Republic of Oregon here in Southern Oregon. It's not nearly as bad, but it's a good thing. We have a really special guest coming on, but I got to tell you, if you are interested in signing some petitions, we've got 4 petitions that are at our headquarters, the Republican headquarters. We're going to be there Monday through Wednesday, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., Newmark Plaza, 3229 Broadway, Suite F. F for Fockers, that's our acronym, F-O-C-C-R-S, Friends of the Coos County Republicans. We are the Fockers. And we are going to be there from 2 to 6, Monday to Wednesday. And this is the building on the same side as the drive-through of McDonald's, right under the Century 21 sign. Right now, Elmer and Carol are there gathering signatures, and you can sign the vote before tolls, the end vote by mail, and the death tax, and let us paddle. And I'm not talking about that crazy co-ed college paddling that we used to do back in the day. No, I'm talking about letting the kids go to the water, put their canoes, put their inflatables in the water, and not forcing us parents to get permits for those kinds of things. It's ludicrous what they're asking us. And so we're trying to stop some of these taxes. We're trying to stop some of these new regulations from going in. You can help us by going out to the headquarters and signing those petitions. Very important stuff. And as I said, I've got a very important guest coming on. While I'm talking with him, I'm going to be also playing simultaneously a work session that's going on currently up in the legislature. And we're going to be talking about a gun bill that is going to be involved in this work session. And joining me right now, candidate for District 9, Troy Cribbins. Troy, how you doing, man?
Good, Rob. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. I thank you for being on. I think this is very important because a lot of people don't realize that Measure 114 is being fought in the courts. It's being fought on the state court. It's being fought in the federal level. We're having great success, I think, once it gets to the high enough courts, but they're doing it again. And can you explain maybe what this bill does? It's House Bill 4145. Explain what it does and how it relates to Measure 114.
Yeah, just to kind of back echo what you're saying is, it's interesting to me that we're working on a bill that's related to 114 that's not even activated yet because it's tied in the court. So just off the top, it seems to me like it's a great deal of wasted time and effort on something that's not even decided. So there's my first part.
Right.
The second part is I'd have to look up the bill again. I've got it on my laptop. I'd look at it, but essentially it just increases the time frame that it takes an individual to do a background check and a few other restrictive things that impact your ability to follow your Second Amendment right. So for me, and again, if I go way up in the clouds, the first thing I'm going to say is we've got to stop shooting each other. I don't know how we do it. It's a very complicated issue, but these sorts of measures, regardless if it's bump stocks, whether it's magazine capacity, whether it's extended time, whatever it is, that's not the problem. All that does is affect the legal law-abiding gun owners from obtaining weapons of their choice, whatever it is. So in general, that's my opposition and frustration with this bill. And like you said, I think there's a work session on it right now today.
Yes, actually there is. I'm going to get to that because there was like 7 bills that are going through. And I think you even said that there was another bill that you thought was in this work session as well that you were interested in.
Yeah, the
They,
other one that I'm interested in is it's Bill. Geez, I helped write it, so shame on me. I want to say it's 1575, but it might be 1566. No, it's 1575. And that's a completely separate issue that has to do with healthcare, and it has to do with making sure that individuals who come to the state of Oregon and want to open and operate a hospice agency have to understand what they're getting into. It relates to making sure that their leadership has the experience required, that there is a need in the area that they're wanting to open. And hospice or healthcare in general is a little different than just general manufacturing. We're not making widgets, we're taking care of people. So there has to
right.
be a little extra layer of care to make sure that you get the right players in there. So to end up what they have in Los Angeles County was where inspectors went into a commercial building, and my quotes are not specifics. I don't, somebody don't Google me and tell me I was off, but generally they went into a building, there were multiple offices with no one in them, and they all had Medicare numbers, and they were billing Medicare hundreds of millions of dollars and never actually treating patients. We don't want that here.
Was this part of the Somali Leering Center, I guess?
No, it's a frustrating regulation, and that's another issue of mine is
Yeah.
we're way overregulated. But
Yes.
and again, the problem with extended and overburdensome regulation is all that does is for operators who are trying to do it right, as another layer of work and effort they have to do to provide the same service. So for me specifically means I have to hire another staff member to do nothing but just make sure that we're following all the regulations that we're supposed to. And that means in the end game that I have less operating funds to hire another staff member to go take care of more patients.
And so that's understandable because, like you said, you're not working with widgets; you are actually working with patients. I'm trying to find the meeting here. Is why I was a little distracted there. Let me put this up on screen here. I've got the bill here. This is the bill HB 4145. If this, once again, I don't even understand how once it passes that it's going to do anything, because wouldn't it be getting fought in the courts just like Measure 114? Wouldn't it automatically trigger it, or do we have to wait for someone to challenge it as well, like the Gun Owners of America, Oregon Firearms Federation?
If I'm being honest, I don't actually know. If you had to ask me, generally, I would think it would not go into effect until Measure 114 is determined.
Right.
So again, it goes back to my point. What are we doing here? Why are we taking up this valuable time and resources to do something that's probably not going to be put into effect anyway, at least
Right.
until Measure 14 is.
And that's why I'm kind of curious what the legal, because you don't see this too many this doesn't happen in too many other areas. This is only in gun laws, and they're very vigorous about gun laws. Now you're running for District 9. Boomer Wright is there. One of the things that they made illegal, they didn't make it illegal, I guess they are charging fines now, is if you walk out, you will be fined, and after 10 unexcused absences, you will be removed from office, or you can't run for that office again. Some of us, we like the idea of, well, we don't want people there if they're going to be passing unconstitutional laws. We want them to walk, but the Republicans who are there, they don't want to walk. They don't want to get out of there. So I ask you, if you're in that position, the position you're running for, Boomer Wright C., what do you think is the right thing to do? How would you fight that if you're in position right now?
Yeah, and we may agree to disagree on this one. I get frustrated by that too. But honestly, the only way we're going to make any significant change at the state level is to get more Republicans in the building. We have to have more of a balance, more of a mix for good policy to come out. And I would say that I think if it swung the other way, I think when you're weighted one side or the other too far, you don't necessarily get good, long-lasting policy.
No.
So for me, we need more Republicans in that office, in that building to even out the split. That being said, I realize that walking out is a strategy, right? At some point, it's like, we've tried to talk to you, we've tried to work with you, you're not listening to us, we're going to leave. So at least maybe you can't have the vote. I don't agree with that. I feel like we got to be in the building, staying there, fighting, having the conversations, keep working to keep moving things. And in fact, right now at the super minority, I don't know if they need us there anyway. So
They have enough now of Republicans and enough Republican senators that if they walked, it would cost them
about,
a quorum. Yes. The thing is that all of them would have to walk, and you're never going to get all the Republicans. So that being said, even if you agreed with me that they should walk, you would never be able to get it because there are too many Republicans who think just like you
wouldn't.
think that we should be there to make this vote.
Yeah, I think, someone said it to me once, and I don't know if this is a perfect answer, but I think we were talking about it. It was another Republican. We were talking about how do you deal with the frustration of trying to be there all the time and not feeling like you're getting anything moving. And he said, sometimes our goal is just to take a bad bill and make it less bad. And I don't know if that's a great answer, but I'm playing the long game, and I want us to be in there, keep moving things to the right, and be part of these conversations, and at least at the very minimum, see if we can tweak things to be less burdensome on the community. Because that's who, when this is all said and done, that's who's affected. When I go into my patients' homes or my staff goes into our patients' homes, I see firsthand the difficulty that the overtaxation, overregularization of our state has done to this population. We're one of the poorest counties in the state. We're one of the oldest counties in the state. We have trouble accessing healthcare. All of those things, I think, are a direct result of being overregulated and overtaxed.
And I would agree with you. I think we're way overregulated. One of the this meeting hasn't started yet, so I'm going to go back to just as on the screen here. But yeah, I had your letter up, the one that you sent out as a press release talking about 45, but it's much more than just gun bills that you're going to be having to deal with. There's a lot of different things that you're going to have to take on. One of the situations that happened in 2020 was that there were several government mandates put out there. You were just talking about the regulations, and then you have the governor throwing mandates out there that, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think they're laws. I think these are nice suggestions by the governor. One of them being mask mandates. The other one was being vaccines. And Doug Farrell, who I believe his wife is his sister-in-law is in the medical industry. He says, Troy, being in the medical field, did he mandate his employees to take the vaccine?
No, I didn't. I felt that was a personal choice. Now, I will say I believe in vaccines. I think they've been proven over history. They work. But that, to me, that was a personal choice. I couldn't allow you to work because I was regulated to that extent. But yeah, I can. And the mask thing, it's really not a question because you're in the medical field. You had to wear a mask. That was something that even in the optical field, we would have been required to wear a mask during such times. That to me in the medical field isn't even a question. But the vaccines, I thought there was a lot of nurses. So I'm glad to hear that you fell on the side of allowing people that choice. Samantha Frost, and hello, Samantha. Nice to see you from Roseburg. She says, our Republican legislators have a duty to repeal, nullify all unconstitutional bills and laws. And my question, I guess, is how do you know if something's unconstitutional? How do you know something's not right? And how do you repeal it or nullify it as a representative? I'm not sure about her question. Yeah, I don't know that that's possible. I hear what she's saying, but I mean, I think even at that level, your role is pretty limited, right? We address, bills that come through, and bills are generated from all different concerns, either lobby concerns or legislators' concerns, or maybe it's a citizen petition. And as those work through the system, they go to the committees. The committee decides to move that forward or not forward, and then they go to the next committee, and then the Ways and Means, and at some point, if they had enough votes then it moves forward and becomes a bill. And then I think at that point, it's in the public specter. And I think you have the arguments or discussions as to whether that was legal or constitutional. And that's for the judges. That's for the courts.
And that's where it usually ends up. It's something we had the Second Amendment Preservation Ordinance, which I initiated myself. We also did the Second Amendment. It was the Preservation Ordinance and the Second Amendment Sanctuary Ordinance, and both of those eventually the Supreme Court ruled both of them unconstitutional. It was unfortunate. I disagreed with them because it was based on also the immigration sanctuary laws, where cities can say they're not going to cooperate with the feds on immigration laws. It's in fact, there's a term for it. It's the Anti-Commandeering Act, where they say they don't have to follow the mandates, unfunded mandates by the federal government. And we as a county, we were saying that with the Second Amendment ordinances from the county level to the state and the feds. One of the things that, and where was I getting with this question? My question for you is, where are you on immigration? Do you think that the sanctuary law should be repealed? And I pretty much know the answer. What do you think of the chances of it getting through the legislature if you did agree with something like that?
Yeah. So I'm going to go high level and acknowledge that immigration is a federal issue, and at the state, that's not going to be my focus. My focus really, and I'm going to be specific, my focus is on Southwestern Oregon coast and helping our community be more individually allowed to determine our own destiny, so to speak. That being said, to not throw away the question, I think we need a really strong immigration policy in this country. I don't think it's rocket science. You could argue for days as to why both sides won't figure something out. There isn't a single person in this country who didn't come from somewhere. We are a country of immigrants. It's what makes us us. But there is a certain amount of people that we can absorb on an annual basis, and not just permanent immigration, but work visas and school visas, and all those things are important to achieving the labor needs that we have in this country as well. So there's my personal over-the-top view of that. How they get there, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's something that the legislature has acquiesced completely its authority on, the federal legislature. My question was, and you're right, this is a federal issue, but the problem comes when the state won't cooperate with the feds. So let me just put it out. If you had a bill that one of your fellow Republicans said, we're going to put this bill on there, and I would advise against it because they do so many stuff and guts. You know what a stuff and gut is with the bills, and they really screw up a lot of Republican senators and a lot of good bills with those tricks. But if you had someone who put a bill on there saying we wanted to get rid of the Oregon sanctuary policy, would it be a yay or a nay from Troy Cribbins?
I think the state should support what the federal government's what we're doing there as far as trying to work with the immigration forces. But I'd have to see that. I wouldn't know what was in it, what it was saying, what it wasn't saying. I know I support our law enforcement, and I really struggle with what they're having to go through.
Yeah.
But I'll also say I'm having a hard time supporting ICE when I see them on the television. They're not making it easy for me. We need to be more professional about how we're doing this, how they go about that. I'm not law enforcement, but we could do a cleaner job, right? People shouldn't be afraid of our law enforcement.
That I think we could do a whole show. I could do a panel of people on that subject alone, because even my friends who are more libertarian are saying, whoa, they're going overboard. It's a big mess. It's very complicated. Steve Nye, I don't know if you're familiar with Steve Nye. Steve, thanks for tuning into the show. He says, hey, Troy, I'm happy to see you running for the position representing longtime Coos County conservatives. Can you demonstrate to the voter base you can hold a conservative line?
Yes, I know Steve and Debbie both. They're family friends, and our youngest kids grew up together, so I've known them for over decades. Steve's going to have to talk to me in person and ask me what that means. I know what it means to be a conservative. I've been one since I was 18. My idea of conservatism is a small, streamlined government, free markets, and individualism. Those are the things I care about, and I'll push for them.
All right. Yeah, that's Steve, and I appreciate that question. One of the things you're also going to be facing, and this is happening here on a huge level, is housing. I noticed that you were endorsed by Dick Anderson. I personally, Troy, I think that's going to hurt you with a lot of solid conservatives because they don't look as Dick as he's a moderate. And so that may not bode well for you having him as an endorsement. I don't know. I can't predict the voters any well. If I could, I'd be a much better off man. And so the thing is that we've got a lot of housing coming in. And I think that this is the biggest problem with business owners. This is the biggest problem with property owners. I don't know how many times I've heard this story, and you probably have heard this story too. I moved to Oregon. I bought some property. I wanted to build a house. They said it was going to take 2 years, and now I'm living in a mobile home on a lot. What can you do without taking any more of the land in a county off the tax roll, without creating more regulation? What can you do that wouldn't cost anything? What laws could be passed that wouldn't cost anything to help people develop and build housing and businesses in this area? Even large buildings like my family's coffee roasting facility. I think it's a 5,000 square foot building. It's hard to get permits for that kind of stuff. So what would you do? What would you think would be a good answer for that?
Well, we'll go back to state government is big, it's cumbersome, and it moves slow. And we're in the super minority. So I'm not going to make a promise that I'm going to go up there and just flip a switch and get everything that I want. But I will tell you what my ideas are. And one is we've got to back off the land use regulation. I understand what the point of land use goals were, and they're to protect what we all love. We love to kayak, hunt, fish, bike, whatever. We live here. We know what it looks like. We don't need Salem to tell us how to protect it. But they've gotten those land use laws to the point where they're used now to stop development, to stop growth, to extend permit length. There's got to be a way to draw that back. I.e., if you're an organization and you want to do business here and you meet those requirements, to me, that's a done deal. Signed, moved, next process. It's not, though. We've got those who don't want to see any development, then use that to file an appeal, and then it has to go through the system. All you do is make it take sometimes years for an individual to try to get forward a private project, whether we're talking about large manufacturing or a small development builder, either one. So what I would do was work really hard to reduce those regulations, streamline those regulations. And if we're being honest, it's an uphill battle.
Yeah. And
But
that's it's always is in rural Oregon.
Yeah, but we got to keep trying. We can't just put our head in the sand, right? Because if you're asking me, I can sum it all up to economic development. If we want housing here, you know what we need? We need more business. If we have more business, and we have people here, and if those people are here, they're going to build a house. And if they're going to build a house, there's going to be a builder that wants to build a house. So I think there are some government programs that are trying to help and try to move some progress through for like maybe affordable housing. But for our community to grow, we need more business. And I think we need more large scale business. They bring in commercial insurance, which then helps all our healthcare facilities, including our hospital. They bring in individuals that make enough money to buy homes, which helps our local municipalities' tax rolls. And they make enough money to go spend at all our existing local business operators who are struggling just to keep their doors open.
But that's another thing that leads to government intervention and government involvement with business, because I would too agree with you that jobs are important. It's, and that's a complex issue because I go around and I see a lot of places hiring, and all employees, all business owners are complaining about the same thing, that it's hard to get good employees. And I see a lot of jobs out there that are available for businesses, but we don't have a trained workforce. A good portion of them are drug-addled people with criminal records, which is sad what we have here. And so I'm not sure, we could bring in more jobs, but I'm not sure if we're going to be able to fill them. And so there comes the chicken and the egg. You bring in more jobs, you're going to need more housing. and we already have a housing shortage. One of the jobs or one of the businesses they want to bring in is that intermodal cargo container plant. I've seen the latest studies on it. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, depending on what you look at. They say it's going to be very cost prohibitive as far as shipping things out of Coos County if we actually had this plant, because it would be much more expensive than it would out of Portland or San Francisco. They're saying that we're going to have to invest and put a lot of subsidies into this, including for the railroad. The port itself, I don't know if you saw the last financial study that their an analysis they had. They're running in the red on the railroad side of it. So what do you think? Are you for? Because this is something you may vote for in District 9. This is something that you may have to vote on as far as economic development funding and such. Are you for or against that intermodal cargo container plant? And where are the best roads to get to that point if you are?
Yeah, I'm a super supporter of that project. I mean, you brought up the port. The port is struggling. They don't have enough customers to maintain that rail. Those customers need the rail. It's important to those customers. We just don't have enough of them. So to me, the best way to solve that is this port project. That project will have the infrastructure and develop that rail so that it can handle those customers and hopefully indirectly bring in more customers. I think it's a great infrastructure project. I think it helps deepen and widen the channel. I think it helps improve that rail line, which needs a great deal of improvement. And I do think long term that the reports that I've heard is there is a market. There's an Asian market. It's a day shorter than the other big ports. We're not necessarily going to compete with Seattle or San Francisco or LA. We have our own market there. We can get into the main rail hub from Eugene or Portland and send products all over the country. And at some point, yes, it would be great that maybe we could export some products too. Maybe that'd be good for our fisheries, maybe our cranberry guys. You know, those things are remain to be seen. I think it's a project that's worth investing in. And you know, when we say we have more jobs and we're not able to fill those, I think people will come for good jobs. And I think we could use more people. You know, more people helps volume. It helps build up all the things when I'm sitting at city council and individuals are frustrated with infrastructure.
Yeah.
Well, there's only so much. I mean, we've already taxed our population to the maximum. They don't have any more to give.
Right.
So we need different individuals. We need more individuals with better paying jobs. And those help the people that are here, you know, boost their level up a little bit. For me, it's about building jobs, bringing in more people, making our community much more prosperous. I think we have, the sky's the limit for our community. I believe that. I believe in this community.
I don't know if the legislature will have anything to do with the port's decision on moving from rails to trails between Coos Bay and Coquille. There's that line that goes all the way to Coquille. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. I think it would be a great idea if we had law enforcement and justice system was working, but all I see is another avenue of having people, and I don't like to call them homeless. There are street criminals. There are people out there who don't want to change their lifestyle of being druggies and being criminals, and they want to live out in the wilds. I think this would just promote that. Where are you as far as that? And I'm not even sure if the legislature would even have a vote on anything or because you may have to vote on funding for it. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think we would. I think that's a federal thing. I think even the port has to ask the railroad if they can do that. I'm getting out of my scope of understanding, but I believe that's between the railroad, the Federal Railroad Bureau, whatever it is, and the port. And maybe not about the funding. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea, but to your point, yes, we have a homelessness population and an issue. And that's a whole nother show for you too. It's complicated, whether it's mental health, whether it's substance abuse, whether it's a combination, whether it's individuals like you say that are out there that just choose not to fit into society. They're all part of it. True. And I would say, and this is a more step back, bigger picture, part of the problem is that some of the Democratic policy of wanting to help everyone on everything removes dollars and money from its main focus, And those are the things that puts us in the situation. And they would say over the last 40 years, they just need more money for those programs to work. I would argue you've had 40 years, they're not working, and it doesn't matter how much money we dump into them, it's not working. And those individuals are humans. That's somebody's brother and son, or we need to have compassion for them. But what we're doing is not working, and it's putting the rest of us in a very complicated position. You know, our budgets are tight. So at some point you have the working man who's going to work every day, or the working woman, and they're working their rear end every day, and they don't have anything left to do anything they want to do because it's being regulated or taxed from them. We got to pull that back.
Yeah. Yeah. And because the feds are going to be cutting a lot of blue state funding, and the blue states are doubling down on it. I go with immigration. I go with the DEI policies that the governor and the legislature, Democrat controlled, is pushing. My question, and I've got two, and I know we talked to that you got about 30 minutes, but I got two basic questions for you, and they're two different topics. One, I want to know what you think a legislature can do about the crime and the revolving door that we have on all our county jails. What do you think can be done with that? And I guess I want to tie it into Mannix. I don't know if you knew there was a petition out on crime, and if you support that type of petition, and if you support that type of public initiative as well. What would you do, though, as a legislature?
So I'm not aware of the petition. I've met Mr. Mannix, and I appreciate what he's doing. I guess supposed to directly answer your question, I think state legislature needs to support our law enforcement. I think it's a terribly tough job. Those guys go out and they see people on their worst days, usually, and then they have to deal with that and compartmentalize it and try to raise their own family. So we need to do a better job of supporting them. What that looks like, I don't know. I don't know all the intricacies of where funding comes from or who it gets funded by. And I know we're not supporting them to the level we need to.
Yeah, totally. I would agree with you on that. I mean, just the fact that they have a public defender shortage and they're not appropriating money to bring in more public defenders is just ludicrous. I mean, right here in our county, I think we're at 1,800 cases behind because they just don't have the manpower in the DA's office to prosecute. And even if they do prosecute, we don't have the public defenders to defend them. So it's like a catch-22 on both ends.
Right. And part of that's because we can't afford to pay those people.
Yeah.
Right. Or they come here and they're here for 6 months to get experience, and then they can go to a more populated area and make a better wage, which, good for that's individualism. Good for them. You got to do what's right for you. But we need to figure out how we can bring more of the tax resources back to the minimal focused roles of government. And that's a big ask, right? That's a huge ask. That's not going to happen overnight.
The sad part, though, Troy, is it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a huge ask. That should be something. This is nonpartisan. Gee, do you want to put bad guys in jail? Yeah, I want to get bad. You know what I mean? It's like we shouldn't even be having this discussion. Really.
Well, theoretically, I hear you, and from my views, you're right. But we realize when you're governing for the whole populace, right? So that means at least 50% of them don't agree with that. They think that we need more money for programs. And so there's a fundamental difference in what you or I may think is the easy, no-brainer way to do it, and the other 50% of the population that thinks that that's not the way to do it. And that's the challenge of governing, is you're governing for both sides.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then I got one last question for you. And this was a huge issue here. You probably voted for it. Peggy Rintz asked, how will he vote protect our coast from the windmill farms? Were you for or against the wind turbines? What did you think of the whole project, and would you work to get rid of them?
Yeah, my understanding of that process was they were not bringing in wind farms, so to speak. They were studying whether wind farms would be an appropriate form of energy. So my feeling on that is going to be much bigger. It's that we are at some point going to move to different types of energy sources. I don't agree with the policies that are wanting us to get rid of oil and gas and just shift off to all that. But I do realize that those things are finite and resource. And we should, if we're smart, start thinking on ways to bridge over. But that's got to be backed by consumer demand, right? Otherwise, it's
Mhm.
not affordable. Um, but information, I never think is bad. So if we're going to study to whether those things are viable or not, I'm for studying whether something is viable or not. And then if it's not viable, then we should not use it. We shouldn't adopt it. But if it
Right.
is something that's viable that can be uh, cost effective and provide us with something, I think we should use it. I think that the South Coast, we have an amazing geographical location that puts us on the forefront of being in front of maybe some future changes. We should take advantage of that. We should take the lead of it, right? We should make it adapt to us because we're here. I feel the same way about our timber and our fishery resources. We're not able to access those to the levels we should be. And we, I believe, are the best stewards of this land. We live here. It's not only is that where we work, but it's where we play. So I don't know if that
Absolutely.
answered the question, right? I mean, I'm for information. I'm for knowledge. I'm for learning what works and what doesn't work.
It's I would have a few more questions on that. I think I'm honestly we're getting to the point where you're over the 30 minutes. I want to keep it to your word. We'll get you back. Maybe we'll
Sure.
see if I can get we'll have a candidate forum and we'll get the other two candidates on here and maybe we'll talk about these issues.
Sounds good. I appreciate the time. Appreciate you having me.
No problem. You take care, okay?
Thanks. Have a great day.
You too. And that was Troy Cribbins. And boy, I saw a lot of you had a lot of questions. You had a lot of doubts. That's okay. I did too. I, you know, I'm not here to debate on a lot of the different issues. I'm here to listen to them give their answer. And whether I agree with them or not, I think many of you can tell whether I agreed with it or not. But Doug, he's a conservative. Yes, but to be fair, here's his website. Let me see if I can put this up and add this to the stage. This is his website, and yes, he's you can find out more about Troy Cribbins. This is what I talked about earlier. If you guys missed this, he says, I've worked with Troy Cribbins for a while. His breadth of knowledge on rural hospital issues from being on the board of his deep knowledge in the Coos Bay area as the city councilor make him easily the best fit to start day one representing the district. I wholeheartedly endorse him for state representative Dick Anderson. And, I'll be honest with you guys. I think his wife, Melissa, would have been more of a conservative than Dick Anderson was. I think Melissa would have been much more of a conservative than Dick Anderson was. But I also want to look at his endorsements over here. Proudly supported by folks like you in our community and across. Dick Anderson, Joe Bonetti, Mayor of Coos Bay, John Sweet, Coos County Commissioner, Sheriff Gabe Fabrizio, Coos County Sheriff, and Keith Timechuk from Reedsport. I believe Keith, was he running for governor? I don't know if that's the case, but I want to thank Troy for coming on. I appreciate it. He didn't have to do that, and at least he did take the challenge to do that. And you are a moose, obviously. Yeah, I know. Very confusing stuff. I could have gone into days with a lot of follow-up questions, but I wanted to hit a few issues instead of just nailing down one specific issue. It was very interesting. Coffee with a conservative, that's still happening on Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. And I think Troy was at the last coffee with a conservative. I don't know how that went, but hopefully you all had a good time. We were just talking about John Sweet. Phil Taylor says, was Troy on the hospital board when they hired the CEO with all the fraud convictions? I'm not sure if he was still on the board at that time, but I'll tell you what, there were a lot of questions about his. There was a $7.2 million transaction that I would have asked him about if we had a full hour. There were certain contracts with that transaction that really left the taxpayers vulnerable. We wasted a lot of money on that. Once again, I didn't get a chance to ask him about that. And so I really don't know because I didn't keep up with it, but I don't know if there was that guy at the hospital board that they hired. Yeah, with all those fraud convictions, it's like, wow, he looked really good on paper. Well, until you got to his convictions, but at least he's been convicted before we hire him. That's it. Well, that's our new tactic. We'll hire them before, they get their convictions before they get hired. That's what we do. That's the trick now. Very strange, very, very strange stuff indeed. If you guys are, like I said, where was I going with this? Let me take this down first. I was just showing you Troy Cribbins' website, and he's endorsed by John Sweet. I just got ticked off the other day. It was Sunday. I got all the pictures back from that pedo prom. Maybe I'm being too hard on them because we don't know if any pedophilia went on, but it was weird. It was the drag show, all ages drag show prom. And so we were kind of wondering why they needed our money, because it looked like it was a pretty popular thing. And yet they got our money from the commissioners. Commissioner Sweet was one of them, voted to give them $200, but it wasn't about the $200. No. It was about putting the county's name on this whole activity and legitimizing this activity. I'm not, as a voter, as a taxpayer, I'm insulted by that. I'm not even a Christian, and I'm insulted by that. And we're going to talk more about that because I've got some videos of not only them protesting ICE, but some of the videos of the guys who came down Friday night to videotape the drag show. They were here. And they also got some photos of some immigration protests that were done by school kids. And we're going to play those videos. But before I do, we are in need still because the deadline's coming up. I think it's March 10th. On March 10th, you will not be able to sign up to run for a PCP position. Now, this is important even if you're a Democrat. If you're a Democrat or a Republican, your party, because they're the major parties, you have about 198 PCP positions. And of those 198 PCP positions, we need to get all of those filled. And I know people are going, Rob, why should I give a damn about the Republican Party? Well, I mean, the Democrat Party. Well, I'll tell you why. Maybe you can find a bunch of blue-collar Democrats who really are better than the woke DEI Democrats who are now PCPs, and you can get them to register. And that right there would be one way to change the Democrat Party. But for us Republicans, and I disagree with Troy on this, I don't want wishy-washy Republicans like Dick Anderson. I don't want moderate left Republicans like Dick Anderson, or even like the two Republicans we have representing us in the South County, David Brock Smith or Court Boyce. Their scores for CPAC are really low. They're not very good conservatives. We need better conservatives. The only way to do that is to get PCPs in the party so that we can get the party going in the direction where people are more conservative. So if you live in Coos County and you're either a Democrat or a Republican and you are still sane, then you need to sign up for PCP. You really don't have to do much. 3 meetings a year, I think, is the qualification. I'm not sure for the Democrats, but I know for the Republicans, it's 3 meetings a year. And one of those meetings should be the organization meeting. You should show up for the organization meeting and vote for an executive board who reflects the conservative values that you want to promote in your candidates and all your policies. This is how we get more conservatives in office. This is how we get a functioning party. Right now, we don't have a functioning party. In fact, March 10th, ironically, not only is it the last day that you can sign up for a PCP, but it's the day of the court case where the vice chair is and one of the other executive board members is suing the current chair of the Republican Party to decide who's going to get control of that party, who's going to finally get to have their way with the party. I mean, he's not living when I say he, I'm talking about Michael Brainerd. The chair is not living up to his values and holding to the bylaws. He's violated the bylaws. He violated a lot of the bylaws as far as scheduling meetings. And so Danessa and Chris Castleman, who are on the executive board, they sued him. They sued Michael Brainerd. And now this is where we're at, March 10th. And so we need more people to be PCPs. I don't know if we got about 60 people registered for the March election. That's a good thing, very good thing. We're going to continue on that. This is something that I recommend highly for both people in both parties, especially if you're a moderate Democrat. Let's see. I want to get to some of these. Jordan Grant. Jordan, I haven't seen you in a while. I hope you and lovely wife are doing well. He says, wow, Rob, didn't know you had this podcast. Unfortunately, I just caught the tail end. No, Jordan, actually not. I probably got about another hour to go. So Tracy Guthrie Olson says, why did you not keep up with Bay Area hospital happenings? Well, I did and I didn't. You do know we have 79 taxing districts. At 79 taxing districts, 7 of those taxing districts are urban renewal districts because we have 5 urban renewal agencies. So I'm one person trying to keep track of all those taxing districts. And it gets a little difficult. And that's why it's nice to have an organization like the Fockers, because we're fawking around. And the Fockers, that's the acronym for our group, the Friends of the Coos County Republicans, FOCCR. I'm not joking. We're the Fockers. And we are working to get people in those different taxing areas. Phil Taylor, he commented earlier, he's on the I call it the transient taxing district. It's actually the transit taxing district, the busing district. We've got Ivan Hawker here. Ivan Hawker says, good old Michael blocked me from the Republican Facebook page. Yeah, that's about right. If you're a Republican, you're a conservative, you can be guaranteed that the chair of the party is going to block you. Ivan is a member of a city council in Myrtle Point. He's on the council there, and I believe his son is on the council there, and I believe his wife is on the school board. So what we're doing, Tracy, is we're trying to get at least someone in every damn district, including the hospital district, to keep track of it. So I did contact a gentleman who I've had on the show, Brandon. I can't pronounce his last name. I'd have to read it again. Brandon, who I believe he's still on the hospital board. I asked him for a few questions, and I talked to him about the time when Troy was on the board. You just can't keep track of everything. I mean, dang, we've got a problem. We got a situation here in Bandon where, they're going after the Bandon superintendent for all kinds of crazy things. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting what they're doing. But Natalie Dixon says, keep doing what you're doing. We love it. I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you, Natalie. You're very much welcome. And we are going to keep doing this. I'm not alone. We've got a lot of good people out there. Ashley Hicks says shared. Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate that. You're wonderful. And Anthony says MP did not put up flags today. Myrtle Point did not put up flags today. I don't know. You'd have to talk to Ivan Hawker about that. But let's see. So let's get back to the pedo prom and John Sweet. I sent John Sweet an email, and I asked John Sweet to resign. Why do we need someone in that position who we cannot trust with our money, who we cannot trust with the decisions that are being made at the county commissioner's level? We cannot trust what this man is doing, and it's very obvious because he's giving our money to people who are putting on these sick, disgusting shows that, and I probably wouldn't even give a damn about these shows, but they had to put the people's name on it. And you might recognize this person from the pedo prom. This is Chris Castleman. I don't know who these two people are who are flanking him. They're demons, I guess. That's what they're supposed to be. I don't remember emos being demons. When did emos become Satan worshipers? Maybe I'm confused. Was that a thing? I don't know. I was never an emo and I was never a devil worshiper. So I don't know. Maybe these people, this is just how they dress. This is just their costumes. I really don't know. But Chris is cool. Chris got into this event. And I once again, I love having a big group of people because this is something that I would never do. I would never go to an all ages drag show prom. That's just not, I would feel weird doing that. And like I said, I've done a lot of crazy things in my lifetime, but this would have been a little bit strange for me. And Chris, he's the man. He went there, and of course he's holding a mocktail. Yeah, it doesn't really look like much of a mocktail. You think a mocktail would actually have an umbrella in it. That's what I would demand. I want a little umbrella and one of those maraschino cherries in it. I mean, there's not even a man's drink. It's a mocktail because men don't drink mocktails. We drink tequila straight and chase it with beer. That's what we do. And so Chris here went to the event, and I don't know I forget who sent me all the pictures of the people in this event, but once I saw the people, I was like, oh my God, our tax dollars went to this? And one of the pictures, and I'm not going to show you because there may be copyright violations, and I really want, like I said, if this was an event that wasn't, and none of our tax dollars were used in this event, and probably if it wasn't all ages, I wouldn't give a damn that this pedo prom went on. And by the way, they didn't call it the pedo prom. They called it the all ages drag show prom. And so I wouldn't have given a damn about this. But like I said, they had to buy the mocktails for the kids. And of course, there's Chris going to get one of those mocktails. But it was damn upsetting because this is the way they presented this whole damn. It's not a phase prom. No, it's not a phase prom. And when I was sent this little flyer, I think it was Rod Taylor who sent it to me. Thank you, Rod, for sending me this flyer and keeping me up on things. I thought, oh, no, Rod, this is a bunch of emo kids and a bunch of gay kids just getting together and having a prom. I didn't realize it was all ages, and I didn't realize some of our tax dollars were going to be going there. Let me show you a little bit further. There it is, Coos Health and Wellness. Now you notice I got rid of the other businesses that were on this page because I believe in the First Amendment rights. And if you want to support mocktails and all age drag shows, that's your damn business. However, Coos Health and Wellness is supported by, they're supported by our tax dollars, our federal tax dollars. Oh, here I got an interesting comment from Chris. He says those were the two performers. They ended up not doing the drag show. It was just a dance. Okay. Why would they not do the drag show? Was it maybe because you were there, Chris? I don't know. That's it. And he says, and there were no mocktails, just fruit punch like a normal prom. See, this is where they got into trouble, okay? Because they sent that flyer out with Coos Health and Wellness on there. Then they send out this flyer. Okay, now this is the leather weather wear that they wanted to, I guess, promote to the kids. And like I said, if I was in 8th grade, 9th grade, and I saw this, this would be cool, man. They're having an all ages, probably not a pride prom. I wouldn't find, more like a Megadeth concert. If this would have been an all ages Megadeth prom, okay, that would have been cool. The band was coming. We're all going to have a good time at the leather weather wear. And that would have been all right. But this is unacceptable. And once again, no kids and no taxes. It's very simple. No kids and no taxes. We don't want to give up anything. So yeah, that was a huge problem for me. And of course, John Sweet was one of the deciding factors. He could have decided not to give our money away to this pedo prom. And I guess he was one of the chaperones. I don't know if that was, maybe he was at the kiddie table. I'm not sure how that went down. But Stock's Family Farm was there. There's a comment from them. He says, they were scared to do it because of all the attention they got. Between Chris and the streamers, they were scared to be exposed. We know that's true. And you know why we know it's true? Because they were kicking out people like nobody's business who they thought was suspicious. I don't think I have the video of the people who were kicked out, but the same people, like I said, who filmed a school walkout a couple of days before the prom event, I'll have video of that here in a minute because I want to talk to you about how this all ties in. Yeah, they were scared to do this. And I wonder if Chris feels that way. I wonder if Chris thinks that they kept it mellow because they were being watched. And so that was very interesting. But the thing was that there were several people trespassed. Let me see if I can get that. Peggy says, don't forget about Drew Farmer. Yeah, Drew Farmer was there. I heard he had a good time. I heard he had a really good time. I'm glad he had a great time on our dime. That's wonderful. And of course, Stocks Family Farm, he was trespassed from the mall. He wasn't even there when the people were starting to arrive. He was just filming beforehand, and he was filming that trash art, not my name for it, their name, trash art from, what is it called? Wash to Shore, another place that gets a lot of our tax dollars that I wouldn't give money to. But Wash to Shore, they get a lot of our money, and they make this trash art. Once again, that's what they call their art, not what I'm calling it. You can decide for yourself. But he was just filming that, and they asked him to leave. Now, that doesn't sound very inclusive, and it was very funny because the two young men, I believe the two other young men who were there streaming, and I'm not talking about Chris Tuff, I was talking about two other young men, they one of them was gay, and he was an American Indian, and they kicked him out too. And it was just like, are you crazy? You're kicking out a gay guy at an all ages inclusive drag show where everyone was supposed to be able to belong. I don't get that. Now, here's the difference. We had people at the Turning Point event from the other side, and I don't like this, your side, my side. We're all Americans, but we had people who we were suspicious of, who were in the Turning Point event. In fact, I had reports that Drew Farmer was there. I didn't see Drew Farmer. And I didn't see Troy Cribbins and his manager. I didn't see these people because there were 700 people there and I was a little busy. But I did see a few people that were suspicious. And the last thing I would have done was kick them out as long as they're not causing any problems. You can look suspicious. It's okay in America to look suspicious. Look at John Sweet in this picture. He looks a little suspicious, but I wouldn't kick him out. Have another piece of cake, John. Have more mocktails. I mean, heck, we taxpayers paid for it. And so that's pretty much where I would be at with this. But Drew Farmer and all those other people who came to our event didn't get kicked out. Why? Because we don't do that. And we live streamed our event. I don't think they live streamed their event. Well, of course, they didn't do the risque stuff. But yeah, they weren't allowing our people to live stream, which we allowed others to live stream our event at Turning Point. And they didn't allow our people to stay there because they were afraid. What were they afraid of? And it makes you wonder. It seriously makes you wonder. Natalie Dixon says, taxpayer dollars, ick. John Sweet, we never voted for him. Yeah, I voted for him once, the first time he ran, because I thought he was a real good conservative. Well, I found out I was wrong. He says, gay and lesbians do not support this alphabet community. And that's the other thing. I know gay and lesbian people who are just adamant that this kind of crap that I just showed you, this let me see if I can get it up here. Yeah, this crap right here, even gay people go, whoa, this is not appropriate for all kids, and we shouldn't be using our tax dollars for it. And one of those lesbians is a friend of mine, Seata. Seata is running for office, for representative office up north in Multnomah County. And she's been on the show several times, and she calls herself an old school lesbian. I love that. I'm an old school lesbian. I don't believe in that cutting people off cutting parts off of people to change their sex. And I thought, that's great. That's great. So we've had people on the show who are part of the gay and lesbian crowd who do not support this crap, and they shouldn't, because it's bad. It's very, very bad. But it's part of the indoctrination, and this indoctrination goes beyond just the trans agenda. And remember, the trans agenda, it isn't about transsexuality, it's about transhumanism. And if you don't understand that, you may want to look into it, because transhumanism is really where the ultimate goal is, where we're all connected to the mainframe. We got chips and wires coming out of our heads, and it'll be like the Matrix. And literally, that's what they want to do. You don't have to take my word for it. Talk to Klaus Schwab, if you get a chance to talk to Klaus. Elon Musk even believes this, that eventually we will be hooked to the mainframe. And that is something I think we seriously need to worry about. Let me get to a comment here. It says, Jordan says, we're having dinner soon, supper here in Tennessee. So got to go. Janie and Rich German will be here in a couple of days for a short visit. We'll be having breakfast with them. I will let them know about your podcast. Good to see you doing this. Take care, my friend. Love us. And I do love you guys. Thank you, Jordan. Janie Germond, I worked on her campaign. Gosh, me and Jordan and his lovely wife, we all worked on her campaign. And it was an interesting primary. That was one of the first primaries I did here. And of course, Peggy goes, I'm not sure what that was for, but I'll take your word for it. Natalie says, I do something. Many gay people, they don't support this crap. Yeah, I mean, they just don't support this crap because they know it's crap. They know it's child abuse, and certainly our tax dollars shouldn't be used for it. But it's, like I said, it's worse than that. So I was checking out the couple of streamers that came down from up north to our area. I've seen them. I don't know them. I've never met them. I'm going to try to get them on the Friday night rant, those streamers who were here. But I want to play you a couple of the videos that they did, and some of them went national. One here in a minute is going to be from the libs of TikTok. But I want you to check out this video.
Why should I be scared if my family's going to die?
Oh, fuck you. I'm ready to peel your motherfucking ass and all you bitches.
What'd you say?
I said what I said, bitch. You fucking deaf? You might want to rehear the fucking video. Learn how to fucking use your ears, bitch. You look deaf and...
No, I just wanted to confirm it, so I made sure I heard what I was saying.
Guys, we would have shot your dumbass.
Thank you.
Well, isn't that lovely? That's what they're learning in school today, how to become the next best activist out there. They'll learn how to peacefully protest, burn and loot with precision. These kids are going to be the newest in being able to go out there and destroy a major metropolitan city. Yes, these are the next generation of looters and rioters out there who are going to go under the hat, under the guise, we're activists. We're just peacefully protesting out here. Yeah, well, the guy who was filming that, he was one of the gentlemen who was at the prom on Friday night. He was the young gay man who was trying to get in. Well, I'll show you more from another video, but he actually got punched in the face by a young Latino woman. And I was just blown away because you get hit, you're a man and you get hit by a woman. I don't know. I've been hit by a woman, and my reactions are I just hit back. I don't like hitting women. I don't think it's a good thing to do, but I've actually been hit by a woman and I hit her back immediately. And I think I was just almost as shocked as she was. In fact, it wasn't even a hit. It was a slap. She didn't like something I said and she slapped me across the face, and just out of sheer response, I slapped the crap out of her the same way she slapped me. And I remember her exact words, I'm going to get my brothers to beat you up. Well, I hope they're men, lady, because you're a bitch. So get out of here. And so it's kind of, unsettling for a man to be hit by a woman, because there is no winning situation, because everyone's going to look at you and go, wow, you just got hit by a woman. What a pussy. Yeah, I know. And then if you hit her back, they go, wow, man, you just hit a woman. What a pussy. Yeah, I know. See, it's like a no win for guys. So these young Latino chicks who are out there all, machoed up, macho es macho, hitting on these young gay male of all people. That's really unsettling, And so I want you to watch this next video because it doesn't get any better, folks.
At least they're not on the road. Don't surround people.
That's assault. She hit me in the face.
I know. Can we stop it? Can we stop?
He's going to jail.
And I was putting my hand in the middle of it, and she okay, so what was she wearing? Help me with that.
Somebody assault Danny?
She assaulted me and Danny.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Can I see your head?
Press charges.
I would.
Now, I don't understand why all those kids weren't arrested and put in holding for at least a couple of hours. God, things have changed. In my day, the officer would scare the hell out of you and put you in the back of the squad car handcuffed. And if you made any smart comments, he might roll down the alley before getting to the police station. You're going to step outside and he's going to give you a few kidney shots. I've seen it, friends. I've seen it. And then as you're crying, you're being taken off to the police station and you don't dare want to say anything because his buddy is the guy who's processing you at the police station. So you don't want to tell him what just happened in the back alley. So, these things happen. You know what I mean? So I don't know what happened to cops anymore. What happened to their balls? And unfortunately, lawyers got into the picture. And now all these kids got lawyers and the cops are terrified. And thank goodness they have cameras today, because without the cameras, so many of these people would lie. All those kids would lie. Oh no, we weren't doing anything. We were peaceful. It was like we were having a Bible session and these damn pigs, these fascists came in and they interrupted our Bible session that we were having right there in the corner. And of course, thank goodness there are people live streaming this, because you can see that ain't no Bible study. Let's see. We got some comments here. Where are their parents? Spoiled little brats. They need to be spanked. And spanked. And like I said, not in that good college co-ed way when we all have fun with it. But no, spanked in a serious way where you're going to get some welts on your ass. And then we're going to put you in a corner for a few minutes. And we're going to take your bedroom door off the hinges. We're going to take your posters out and forget about any electrical games. Yeah, I was a tyrant when my kid would mess up. When he got punished, he got punished. You're losing your door. You're losing all your privileges. And now you're going to have to work to get them back. That's what a real parent would do. And I'll tell you what, there were no Turning Point kids there. I can guarantee you none of our Turning Point kids were there doing that crap. They would never do something so disgusting. Let me see. I'm sorry. I'm ranting here. Ivan says, Steve and I, sometimes you got to turn the cheek with a hook shot. Yes, absolutely. And I don't care if you're a woman or a man. You come up and punch me in the face, I'm punching back, man. That's just the way I was raised. That's the way it goes. And if you're a woman and you want to get into a man's sport, guess what? We'll oblige you. We'll oblige you. We're all about equal opportunity. We're all about inclusion. And if you want to get in the game, ladies, you better be able to take a good hook shot. Just like Ivan says. Jordan says, Coos area was at a low point when we moved to Tennessee. If that video represents an overall attitude in the Coos area now, it appears they have reached the bottom now. Sorry to see this. Gotta go. Take care later. And Jordan, it's not, that was Eugene. I believe that was Eugene where they were having those protests. And I don't understand what happened to the police of Eugene. Talk about ballless wonders. Damn. And these are kids doing this. And Steve Nye says, did you see what happened when the dude did turn his cheek? Justice was served. Justice was served. I don't know if they did arrest that. You know, were those girls being arrested because of that? I don't know. Did I miss the video? Yeah, you missed the video. And I'm not going to play it again because it was like 3 minutes long. But here's the thing that really ticks me off. These are the same people who go to these pedo proms, you know, the all ages drag show prom that just happened this past Friday. Those are the same people who were protesting our Turning Point event. For some reason, they were calling us fascists. They were calling us all kinds of names. And all we did is we had an event that everyone was invited to, and anyone who showed up, nobody was kicked out. We didn't kick anyone out of the theater. Everyone was well behaved. Not so with the Pride Prom. If you looked a little suspicious, I guess if you looked too heterosexual, I'm sorry, sir, you look a little heterosexual for me. We got to get rid of you. And that's how they would shoot people out at the drag show prom. But at Turning Point USA that we had just a month ago, at the Egyptian Theater, we didn't turn anyone away. Everyone was welcome. And yet they still make these accusations about Turning Point that are absolutely ludicrous. They treat us like we are them, like we are the ones who are having an all ages drag show. It's ludicrous. So let's see. Let me see if I can show you this. This was a lady testifying about a Turning Point event where she turned the parents in to child safety. It's just child services. It's just ludicrous. Talk about a Karen. This right here is an apex Karen. This is the apex Karen. I don't know if you Karens have a leader. This woman might be your leader. She is an apex Karen. I've never seen a woman so Karen-ish in all my life, and I apologize if your name is Karen, but this woman, she really needs to go. And what she says about Turning Point is a complete lie. And I'm going to fill you in on that on the other side of this video.
Good evening. I'm going to go off script here and say congratulations, Dr. Newsom. And in the announcement of your position, it was said, we hope you will be more inclusive. I agree. I would like the anti-racism statement returned. In December of 2025, Turning Point USA hosted an event marketed to high school students with food and beverages advertised as an incentive for attendance. While community building opportunities for students are important, this event raises serious concerns related to student safety, parental rights, and governance oversight. Event materials indicated that adults, including parents and legal guardians, were not permitted to attend and that supervision would be provided by unnamed volunteers. Excluding parents and guardians from a student-focused event creates a lack of transparency and undermines established best practices for youth safety. School-affiliated or school-adjacent activities should adhere to clear supervision standards, background check requirements, and defined accountability structures. I am also concerned about a potential conflict of interest involving Board of Education members serving as guest speakers at this event. Board members are entrusted with fiduciary and ethical responsibilities, and participation in events targeting students, particularly when parental access is restricted, warrants careful review to ensure compliance with district policies, ethics guidelines, and public trust obligations. Students are widely recognized as vulnerable population. They are in critical developmental stages and especially susceptible to influence. For this reason, safeguarding measures, parental involvement, and transparency are essential. All Board of Education members in this room are mandated reporters under state law, as I am. Based on the circumstances surrounding this event, a report was made to Child Protective Services. All of this was provided along with.
Thank you for your comments.
Child Protective Services. We got to get those parents letting their kids go to these wholesome meetings where they might pray, where they might learn some civics. We can't have that. No. I mean, she's like the opposite of the church lady. It's like, you know the church ladies who it's not Christian enough. Well, she's the opposite. She's the opposite of the church lady.
Well, isn't that special?
Right. She's the opposite of that. Then you have those church ladies who, everything you do is a sin, and, well, isn't that special? It's Satan, And this lady here, she's worse. She's a Karen. She's a leftist Karen. And the first thing she talks about is, I agree with you. I think we should have that more inclusivity. We need that racist clause in there. And a lot of those racist clause, what they really say is that white people are racist. Don't be so racist. And if you weren't so racist, so many people wouldn't like you. Basically accusing us of being something that most of us are not, because, well, we are not just one singular. White people are we represent many different ethnicities. We represent many different heritages ourselves, just in a little white group. So yeah, it gets a little frustrating when you see these leftists and her talking about turning point, how they don't allow parents. Couldn't be further from the truth. They want the parents involved. They want the parents to be part of this guiding mechanism, the turning point groups, to help kids see that there is a better life living through the words of Christ, living through, our founding fathers and many of their messages that we discovered, back during the Enlightenment. There's a lot of great stuff. I mean, the reason they called it the Enlightenment, it was because it was spurred on by religion. And yet today they denigrate religion. This lady, Karen, and I think Ivan had a nice little word for it. We got to stop calling them Karens and start calling them, I can't do that. I know too many nice Karens to desecrate their name. And yeah, that's the problem. I'm sorry, Karen, if you're out there. Jordan says, sounds like a slanderous, self-righteous do-gooder to me. And that's the problem. She is very slanderous. And I wonder what she would have done if she lived here in Coos County, if she would have been at the Coos County's meeting, Coos County Commissioners meeting, telling the commissioners, John Sweet, you need to give money to this pedo prom. I'm sorry, but you got to give money to this pedo prom. They need the $200 for mocktails. I mean, is that where we're going with this? That seems to be, to me, where we're going with this. So I don't know. A lot of stuff happening in this country. I do want to get to something. Oh, shoot, the meeting just recessed. Oh, they just had the meeting and it's recessed. Darn it. There was a meeting on a gun bill, and they finally got to the gun bill, and I guess I played too many videos and didn't catch the end of that meeting. Yeah, Ivan says, you can say it. Oh, yeah. No, I won't do that. Gail's probably watching, and so I don't want to say that horrible word. It rhymes with runt, but it starts with a C. And I don't know. We need to, like you said, we need to come up with something better than Karen, but that's just a little too much. The anti-church lady. Yes. She was the anti-church lady. Could you imagine getting the church lady and the anti-church lady together at a social dinner meeting? Yeah, that would be interesting. And I do want to tell you that there is good news. There is good news on the horizon. I want to show this news story that I caught, and I want to show you before I get out of here. Let's see if I can do this. Share my screen. This is a good one. I think you'll like this. I think you all will appreciate this story. Let me add this to the stage. This is from CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network. And these two ladies are teachers. Let's see. The Oregon School District pays $650,000 to teachers who oppose trans policy. Because, in a free country, we don't want you opposing anything. You have to go along and to get along on everything. If we tell you that boys can be girls by cutting off their wieners, well, you have to believe us. If we tell you men can have babies, well, you got to believe us. Well, these damn Oregon school teachers, they were independent thinkers, and I guess they didn't think the same way as the people who were pushing the trans policy here. Let me read this and make sure you guys still see this. It says 2 Oregon teachers who were fired after criticizing their school's district's policy, which allowed trans-identifying students to use bathrooms and locker rooms of their choice, have reached a $650,000 settlement with their former employer. Yep, isn't that nice? And I say good for them. Too bad the taxpayer has to pay for it. See, the people who create these policies, they don't suffer a punishment for their bad policies. They're bad politicking. They're not doing good politicking out there. And this is what happens when you don't do good politicking. You get bad policy, and then the next thing you know, your teachers are suing you, and you have to pay out $650,000. But unfortunately, it doesn't come out of the policymaker's pocket. It comes out of the taxpayer's pocket. But I continue. The Alliance Defending Freedom, ADF, a nonprofit legal group, that's one of the good ones, has announced that the Grants Pass School District 7 agreed to pay that amount in damages and attorney's fees for the wrongful termination of Rachel Sager and Katie Medart, a CBN News reporter. The educators filed a lawsuit, or as in CBN News reported, the educators filed a lawsuit after officials suspended and then fired them in 2021. The teachers alleged it was for expressing their opinions on a personal online platform when they weren't acting as representatives of the school district. Sager and Medart have worked in the education field for several years, including at North Middle School in Grants Pass, according to the ADF. Sager served as assistant principal, and Medart taught science at the school. Imagine that, a science teacher saying that the trans agenda is a bunch of BS. Well, I guess she studies that real science, not that science that tells you a man can have a baby. No, Medart studies the good science. That's right. But together they started the grassroots organization I Resolve to propose gender identity education policies that respected the rights of students, parents, and teachers, and especially young women. I'm not too worried about the chick who dresses as a dude and goes into the dude's restroom. I'm not too worried about them because dudes can take care of themselves. The dudes aren't going to have a problem. You come in there and you're a chick who's pretending to be a dude and you come into the bathroom. Okay, that's the bathroom. Good luck, ladies. Good luck with that. But when you're a young woman and then you got a guy pretending to be a woman, which just recently happened. There was video of a guy who just had to keep a pervert out of the bathroom. And I think he got charged for defending his daughter. But we got to protect young women, especially young women. So I continue this story. It says, their proposals advocated for teachers to abide by their conscience and refrain from using pronouns inconsistent with a student's biological sex. I Resolve suggested that locker rooms, showers, and restrooms be designed based on a person's biological gender. The group also endorsed and gave students the option to request access to private restrooms and locker rooms. And once again, biological gender is all they're doing is following the science. Remember that during COVID, follow the science. That's right. Dr. Fauci, he tells you not to wear just one, not just wear 2, but to wear 3 masks. You got to wear 3 masks, and they all got to be respirator, special fitted masks that you got to put on your face. Remember, follow the science. Come to find out, it really didn't help us wearing those masks. In fact, it hindered herd immunity. Herd immunity is what saved us. Herd immunity is what saved us every single time we have had disease in any society. That always saves us. And yet we went against that basic instinct to be out there, be with people, and building up good germs to fight the bad germs. No, we weren't doing that. We weren't becoming more or less susceptible to the COVID virus. And in fact, those masks hindered us more than it helped us. It was bad. But I continue the story. Working together, attorneys with the Pacific Justice Institute, PJI, and Alliance Defending Freedom filed a lawsuit in 2023 urging the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit to protect the educators' First Amendment right to free speech and religion. Thank goodness the First Amendment still stands. In June, the court, and remember this is the Ninth Circuit Court, ruled in Sagar's and Medart's favor by partially vacating the lower court's decision and remanding the case for trial. The ADF announced in a press statement, vigilance is necessary to ensure that public employees do not use authority over employees to silence discourse. Not because it hampers public functions, but simply because superiors disagree with the content of employee speech. The court reaffirmed in its opinion in Demonio versus Grants Pass School District number 7. As part of the settlement, Grants Pass School District agreed to pay $650,000 of their school district's taxpayers' money in damages and attorney's fees, issue a public statement acknowledging that the educator's wrongful termination fell short of the standards and responsibilities, provide positive letters of recommendation for both teachers, and they should have to kiss their ass as well, revise the district's policy to comply with the First Amendment, and remove negative references from their personal files. Yeah. And so I wonder if anything happened as far as the policy. Yeah, it really... Yeah, let me see here. Educators are free to express opinions on fundamental issues of public concern like gender identity, education policy. That implicates the freedoms of teachers, parents, and students, said ADF legal counsel Matthew Hoffman. But it doesn't say whether the school district kept its policy. That's kind of where I'm curious about. Did the school district, did they actually, once they had to pay a price, once they had to pay a penalty, did the policy go back to what the teachers wanted? Did they protect the girls? That's the question. I really, the money thing, that's not important. I don't want young girls being assaulted in bathrooms. And it does happen. In fact, in Grants Pass, they just had a teacher assault a student in the classroom. This just happened, just a couple of weeks ago. It may have been just last week. I just saw that. In Grants Pass, a teacher assaulted a young girl in his classroom. I don't know about you folks, but I think we need to find out what the hell is happening in our schools. I think we seriously need to find out. And then when you got teachers, a science teacher following the science that biology dictates what sexuality you are, and you can pretend to be whatever the hell you want to be. But the fact is that science, it can only do so much. But there is nature, and nature will dictate sometimes who and what you are. I'll give you an example. This was a quote that I saw on the internet, and it came from a story that I heard this story probably about 35, 40 years ago about a young man. His name was David Reamer, and he was a twin. And unfortunately, during the circumcision, I believe it was the circumcision, the doctor castrated David Reamer. And so the doctor said, it happens. You win some, you cut off some. And so we're going to make a he a she. And they thought that they could turn David Reamer into a female. And I want you to read these quotes. The doctor, John Mooney, or is it Dr. John Money? Dr. John Money, that's probably more appropriate for this type of a doctor, Dr. John Money. This was his quote. He says, gender is learned, not innate. We can raise this boy as a girl. It is a triumph of nurture over nature. This guy is part of the Mangala Medicine School of Destruction. Let me tell you, the Mangala School of Destroying Society. That's where this Dr. Money is. And I don't know if David Reamer sued the hell out of this guy, but it was horrible. It was a horrible story. I remember hearing this. Like I said, this was 30 or 40 years ago when I first heard this story. And this is what happened to David Reamer. He says, you castrated me as a baby and forced me to wear a dress. You drove my brother to suicide and destroyed my life for your theory. I was never a girl. I was a lab rat in your house of horrors. And that's what happened. This young man was taken in under Dr. John Mooney, and he was raised as a girl. What a sick bastard. All because, I don't know if it was Dr. Mooney who was the one who screwed up the circumcision or if it was another doctor. But I'm one of those, if you done that to my boy, I probably would do the same to you. That's how I work. I don't know. What, you cut off my baby's penis? Okay, doc, we're gonna have to step outside for a minute because I got a little surprise for you. Yeah, this is you can't take some part off of somebody's body. And this proves it right here. You can't cut off a penis because nature has a lot more to do with who we are than just nurture, and I think there's a lot more innate in us than we actually want to admit, but that's okay. It's okay. That's to my point of what we're doing with this trans agenda that's going on, that's happening here in Coos County. We've got to keep fighting it. We're going to keep fighting it. And that's why we're doing things like, gathering signatures for petitions to stop the ridiculousness. We're trying to find candidates to run for office for all the different districts. And all of this takes a little bit of organizing. Now, coming up this next month, we're going to have a governor's debate, and it should be a very, very interesting debate. Right now, we got three confirmations. We've got David Medina said yes. Danielle Bethel, I should say, said yes. And of course, Ed Deal said yes. And I'm still waiting for a call from Dudley's camp. And Christine Drazen, well, she has a calendar conflict. We'll be working on Christine Drazen, but we have four of them, the four top ones. And that should be quite interesting. C. Coasty 95 says, take kid to a farm to learn about the birds and the bees. And that's really all it is. That's a great C. Coasty here 95. That's a great thing. Take the kids to a farm to learn about the birds and the bees, because you will learn more about biological sex on a farm than you ever imagined you could. And that's because on a farm, that's your product. On a farm and a ranch, and I don't know if you've ever seen a cow insemination process. It's quite the process. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I don't know if you've ever seen a cow birth. A cow birth is quite something too. They got these huge long gloves. They go all the way up in your arm, and you'll see these guys, and they got to reach in all way up into the cow's, and deliver this calf. And it's a beautiful thing. Life is a beautiful thing. Puppies, just watching puppies. I don't know how many times I've experienced watching a dog give birth to puppies. It's a beautiful thing. And that's the problem what we have done to these kids. These kids wouldn't be having so many of these issues if they were out in nature, if they were out on farms and ranches where food is actually produced and they were able to see this stuff that's going on. It would be a much better place. I don't know. Just Alex says salmon too. Yeah, take them fishing. All of that good nature stuff is exactly what we need. Let me see if I've missed anything here before I go out. Oh, shoot. Nope, that's pretty good. We pretty much covered it all. And I could sit here for another 4 hours talking about all the different things that are happening in the county. I'll be on this next Friday on the Friday Night Rant. I hope to have a couple of the streamers who are live streaming from the immigration protest in Eugene, who are also here for the pedo prom this past Friday. I'm going to try to get those streamers on here to talk to them. And I won't kick them off because they're gay or they're Indians. I don't care. You can be gay or Indians. I mean, I'd let the politicians come on the show. Why shouldn't I let the gays and the Indians, right? So, but there are people, these are patriots, and they're live streaming so that we get the advantage of seeing what's really going on in the streets, because let's face it, mainstream media, they're not going to tell us the truth. So I want to thank you all for tuning in. Tune in Friday night for the Friday Night Rant at 8 p.m. And I'll see you next week. And until next week, carry on, Coos County. Carry on. Oh, they moved the music. Here we go.